Willys Wonderland is the little movie that could, but most definitely didn't do. And what it didn't do, it did very hard, very annoyingly, and for way too long. I know that is a confusing way to put it, but you'll probably see what I mean soon enough. Willys Wonderland is the type of movie that lives and dies from how the initially fun sounding premise is eventually delivered into a movie. It is supposed to be a movie where Nicolas Cage is mugging through the entire thing, and then he gets stuck for a legally distinct Five Nights at Freddy's joint where he is hunted by killer carnivorous animatronic things that have puppets, costumes, props, and blood. That could have been an absolutely enjoyable time if it was to capitalize on the silliness of that premise. The only problem being that it didn't do that. It didn't seem to understand that the premise was inherently silly, and instead took the most self-serious approach that was kind of shocking. Willys Wonderland is the legally distinct child of totally we didn't have the rights for Five Nights at Freddy's, so instead we made our puppets look just different enough that we don't get sued. And as we all know, legally distinct is the best type of distinct there can be. Even when your plot of your movie sounds weirdly similar to the other series lore, you know, having a killer dressed as a fantasy mascot to lure children into a family restaurant so that they can kill them for other evil means. It's fine though, you won't get sued as long you can put a thing about, oh, instead of one main bad killer in the beginning, there were more than one bad killer at the beginning. And that small difference can prevent you from getting sued to high heaven. And that's all we can ever ask for, to not to get sued nowadays. All I was asking for was a movie that would be able to have fun with itself and not be like super totally trying to be cool way too hard all the time, which this movie did for reasons. This movie should have or could have or possibly would have been benefited from taking two different approaches for making this premise into a film. The first one being, if you know anything about Five Nights at Freddy's, which I unfortunately know now, the lore of that series is absolutely ridiculous and makes no sense at any point whatsoever. Every single character, every single animatronic, every single item in the game, any party hat, flashlight, anything you can think of has way too many detailed explanations of where they came from, why they are designed like that, and why there are phantom versions of animatronics that were already hunted in the first place. It doesn't matter if we were to just poke fun at the fact that these obviously targeted at children horror franchises put a little bit too much effort in trying to create a lore that is super totally dark, messed up, and spooky to scare kids and distract them from the fact that this is just a series completely dependent on jump scares. Instead of making fun of that, they could have also done just a simple, straightforward movie that used the animatronics in any way that was clever at all. But no, the movie chose to do neither of those options and went with the choice of doing the most straightforward possible plot where Nicolas Cage just punches them until their head explodes or something. It's just kind of a problem when your horror action fighting animatronics movie with Nicolas Cage has the horror action movie parts where Nicolas Cage punches said animatronics be the most dull thing about your movie. Every time a fight started, I lost total interest of what was going on because I couldn't understand what I was seeing. And before I explain why I couldn't understand what I was seeing, besides just showing you clips of the movie, which might literally give you a headache, if not a seizure. So seizure warning, everybody. Isn't that fun when you review a movie? You have to make sure that you don't kill people by showing you clips of that movie. I love when that happens. Let's just say that the animatronics of this movie, none of them really stand out in any way, because the movie's super creative way of dealing with every single animatronic, regardless of their type of animal, importance to the plot, or, you know, namesake of their movie, is exactly the same for every single thing. The two costumes that stand out is Ozzy the Ostrich and the Spanish one. And the reasons why they stand out is Ozzy the Ostrich was the first fight that Nicolas Cage has, and the other one is the Spanish one. Siempre a sus órdenes, señorita Lee. That's it. And that's a thing that you're gonna find yourself saying when watching this movie. It's just, that's it. Apparently there are 8 of them, and I can barely remember 2, because the movie treats them all in the same way. They're all dealt with in the same way. All of their fight scenes look exactly the same, and nothing that they do distinguishes themselves from the previous one that just showed up. So it's quite hard to grasp what is happening at any point in the movie, which creates this weird sense that this movie doesn't really have a pace, because it never feels like anything has changed, that anything has progressed. Even if you just saw Nicolas Cage punching a dummy, your brain might not be able to remember which dummy he just punched into oblivion, because of how hard it is to understand what is going on, because of how the movie shows that visually. Because this movie is assaulting your eyes at every possible second. And by possible second, I probably should say milliseconds, because when the movie starts with their fights, you might want to skip some of it, if not all of it. Every time a fight starts, the movie will start cutting so goddamn fast that if you blink, you could literally, and I mean that for real, miss 4 different cuts in the movie. Trust me, I have done the math. Did you know that the average time for a person to blink, it's 400 milliseconds, and some of the shots in this movie last about 100 milliseconds? It's really fun to be afraid to blink at any point in a fight scene, because I might literally miss 4 consecutive shots. This is not the only problem with the fight scenes, obviously not. This movie saw that because the choreography was super clunky and looked incredibly lame, and as I said, this movie is trying to make you think that these fight scenes are totally radical and cool. They are not. They cut around as much as they could, and that not being enough to make the clunky fight not look clunky, they decided to go with including every single memed complaint of a modern movie into a jam-packed millisecond shots that you might miss. Hey, did you cutting up every fight scene for millisecond worth of shot not cut it? Here are some suggestions that will make everything much worse. You want to make sure that you include as many lens flares as humanly possible. If your software is almost burning, that's not good enough. You want to make sure that your software is literally broken at that point where you finish including all those nice lens flares that prevent you from being able to see what is happening. And that also not being able to turn your audience's brain into complete mush together with the editing. You want to also make sure that the color grading of your scenes, not only between shots or between rooms, is changing at an aggressive pace. And you do not want to half-ass this aggression towards your audience. Oh no, we want to make sure that the color grading in the same scene, in the same room, in the same immediately following shot changes completely. And now that your audience's brain cannot keep up with the editing and they are afraid to blink because they can miss between anything between 1 to 2 and 4 and 3 and 5 or however many shots you can include into a 1 second clip, you will also want to make sure to include this one thing. And this one thing is very important because that is really gonna turn those head juices into nothing but maybe glitter. You want to grab that goddamn camera, you want to grab that frame, and you want to shake it so incredibly violently so their brain, there's nothing even left of it. And if you're unsure of how aggressively you should be shaking that, just pretend that you're shaking a margarita for your alcoholic mother. I know it always works for me. And bada bing, bada boom. Now your audience is completely unaware of what is going on. They could not have probably understood any of the choreography that you poorly implemented into your movie. They cannot tell that the animatronics kind of look bad when they're getting punched, and the sound effects that you have included do not really match up with what's going on. And maybe the oddly good sounding soundtrack might trick their brain into thinking that what they're watching is actually kinda cool, and totally not a failed attempt at an overly serious horror action movie where Nicolas Cage is punching animatronics. Because that couldn't have possibly been the case. That would be crazy. It's not like the movie includes the really bad actress having lines in which she acts poetic or as if there is some sort of deeper meaning to this movie where people are just supposed to get eaten and Nicolas Cage is supposed to look cool.
This town has a dark history, and it all starts with this horrible place.
I don't care what this bad actress can deliver these lines poorly, telling me that, look guys, it's so dark. These creatures exist because some killers dressed up as animatronics to kill children for a satanic ritual. Isn't that like super messed up though? It's cool, okay? Look, Nicolas Cage is wearing a leather jacket and he has shades and he doesn't even talk and he has like a cool car. Please say it's cool. Oh, I don't know what to do if it isn't cool. It would mean the movie is lame. Oh no. What should we do? Oh, I know! Why don't we include a bunch of annoying children? Or teenagers? Or 20-year-olds? I can't tell because they act like they're brain dead, so who knows how old they are? And I refuse to waste your time pretending that these characters matter at all, because the subplot about these teenagers and the town that is together with the animatronics to prevent the animatronics from eating children, even though in the movie the animatronics get beaten up by just some guy, none of that matters. The teenagers subplot, the only reason they're in the movie is to deliver lines of dialogue poorly.
Well, what the hell am I looking in the fridge for?
And then to get killed violently. I say violently, not fun or interesting. They just bleed a lot and scream a little. That's all they do. All you need to know is that the Willys is haunted by animatronics. That's literally all you needed for your movie. Come on, man. That was your whole selling point. Nobody, I'm telling you, nobody came here to have some totally radical, deep, spooky, scary story about the animatronics. They wanted a fun B-movie with Nicolas Cage punching those dummies. And I think I made myself pretty clear what I thought about that part of the movie. It really should tell you that when your movie about killer animatronics fighting Nicolas Cage while he mugs for the entire movie, the most fun scenes were where he's just cleaning the place and playing pinball. Him cleaning was the most exciting bit of this killer animatronic movie. That and the scene where he dances, he does a funny dance. So just appreciate those shots in where you can actually see Nicolas Cage's beautiful face as he's just mugging to the screen. they do not last long, so make sure to visualize in your head what they look like. Besides the fact that the music of this movie sometimes was way too good for the scenes that they were in, to the point where they seemed unfitting. The scenes with the clumsy fighting and the really annoying editing really didn't lend itself to how catchy and exciting some of the music actually was, and no amount of camera shake and lens flare was gonna fix that particular problem, so that's just not something that can be fixed. The music is okay, the movie, yeah, the movie's kind of terrible. That's just an unfortunate thing about Willys Wonderland. It was a movie that could have been an absolute blast, terrible, funny thing, and now it's just an absolutely terrible, unfun thing. So yeah, hopefully you had fun with this review instead of watching the movie, and if you wanted my suggestion of what you can do with Willys Wonderland, watch the trailer and make up a better movie in your head. So that is all I have for today. You can choose to subscribe. YouTube makes me say these things. I can't really do much about that. So until next time, goodbye.